right, ladies and gentlemen, we are live once again. How about that? Live and in color. This is your semi politically savvy minded host, Abby Kaufman, and we're coming to you from our secret, undisclosed location because if I disclosed it, it wouldn't be secret anymore. On Newport Harbor in Newport Beach, California, and we are your home. If you're a Democrat, liberal minded person, progressive thinker, uh, we're here for you. We want to hear what kind of candidates you want. We want to hear what you think should be done, what positions you'd like them to take, and on a local level, what does your city? What would you, if you could ask your city council person for any one thing, what would it be? So just something for you guys to think about on this really spectacular Friday. It must be, I don't know, low 70s and cool breeze, and that's no guarantee my voice will last any longer. Uh, but we're so glad to have you with us today. And of course, today we're going to kind of get back to being more or less opinionated, but yet still informative. How about that? Uh, of course, the opinions you get are mine, 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 and of course, they're fairly well informed opinions. So I'll give you that much. So, guess who's in the news today? You can run, but you just can't hide, right? How about this? Trump's demand after the fact that for the Saudis to get this really cool nuclear reactor that they'd really like, especially if they think Iran's going to develop a nuke, right? So before the Saudis get this nuke, they have to join the Abraham Accords. Now, like, keep in mind, this is after the handshake. This is why you can't deal with the guy. It's why you can't trust him, because his word or his words are not worthy of being believed. It's just, and at this point, you might write it off as senility or dementia or whatever it is. But then the guy looks just lucid enough at times that you go, geez, which one of these things is an act? Uh, So anyway, the deal is, and it would have been. It's just a lousy. The Middle East is so unstable, and we did it. Uh, and of course, Saudi Arabia wants nuclear technology, especially if they think Iran's going to develop a nuke. And how about, I don't know, Jordan, Qatar? How about those guys? If they think Iran's going to get a nuke, and they see Saudi Arabia getting a nuke, don't you think they might just start inching that way? And you can kind of think back on that old mutual assured destruction theory is to keep things in check, that nobody would be the first one to launch a nuclear war because they'd be obliterated. Well, maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't. Who knows whether they would be obliterated or not? And I mean really obliterated. I don't mean like I don't mean like Donald Trump obliterated. I mean like really obliterated. I just, before you could deal with just about anybody because there was some element of reason involved, some degree of rational, coherent thought that that you could deal with as a fact. But he's just, this stuff may work great if you're a contractor, builder, whatever you claim yourself to be. You know, anything short of an orange tinged subhuman creature who's quite bright when it comes to fraud and that old do re mi. Wouldn't he love to? I was telling a friend of mine this morning, and he's an older guy, 85 years old, and Republican conservative business guy, and of course, he deep down he knows how wrong he is, right? Uh, so when I was he asked me something about Europe and he was so afraid the communists were going to take over. Well, fucking communist. And he says, well, like Russia. I'm like, yeah, no, no, no. That's 50 years ago. We went through, we went through the Cold War. We went through, was it perestroika restructuring? We went through Yeltsin. We went through Gorbachev. we and as a matter of fact, we did come to an arms agreement because we just had way too many of those kinds of weapons. Like I said, those are the real doomsday kind of weapons, and God knows it really does hurt to think and admit that the only country that's ever used nukes like that has been us. Uh, but at least we've been admirable since then. But people wanting, like Saudi Arabia wanting the nuclear technology, and it's just going to follow around the neighborhood. And we're to blame for that too. And I don't want to hear any of this apologist stuff that I'm apologizing. The fact of the matter is, the reason the world order was more or less peaceful was there's always the knowledge that the U.S. would ultimately do the right thing and come to your rescue, and you could be secure without having your own nukes. We will look after you. Just don't build any more of those things. Uh, but of course, when you're of extremely limited intelligence, those sorts of nuances just don't exist. Which is, and when you're presented with facts and briefings and all that, and and you don't look at them, they don't exist. If they don't exist, your decisions are truly have zero relationship with reality and processing information and coming to a conclusion and analyzing both sides of the issue. Apparently, that's just asking a little too much. Uh, so anyway, let me kind of get back on my train of thought here. Okay, so can now that the Saudis really do need, or I don't know if they, well, the Saudis can pretty much buy what they want. If we don't sell them the reactor stuff, China will, and that's just an unfortunate reality. So, and another thing, Americans always great about saying that we shouldn't be the world's policeman. Well, I'm going to submit that that is entirely backwards because if there's got to be a cop anywhere, and wouldn't you much rather have be your cop or my cop? I mean, aren't things a little easier when when we do the policing? You can argue with that, but I don't think you have a very strong argument. So anyway, Israel's of course got nukes and never admitted, and like I said, they are the height of restraint. And there at some point, there's a cultural. There's a reason the word cult comes from cultural. And we've seen cults in the U.S. that have had suicide pacts and all that. But a theocracy with nukes is an entirely different deal because they fundamentally disagree with your right to exist as a human being where you are and breathe. They just deny that you're human. And I'm going to submit that's like not a really encouraging place to start negotiations. And if I were, you know what, we may just have to have the local. See if I can get the local imam to come on. I was on a spiritual journey a while back, and I went to the mosque and the Hindu temple and the and what was it? The Sikh temple. I'm going to tell you, the Sikhs have the religion. I mean, those guys are spot on. Uh, it's an extremely simple religion. Absolute equality. If I was at the service and the prime minister came in, Modi came in, can you imagine? He would just sit on the floor next to me. It's the culture. The Sikhs are they're extremely humble. They every Money is the last reason a Sikh would do anything. In Sikhism, you strive to move towards the one light, and each good deed brings you closer to that one light. And I just they're vegetarian, which I think is really cool. I don't see, I always hate to like kill things to eat. Um, but yeah, so anyway, what if I wonder if he'd come on uh, Imam Al Qudswini, that just might be a cool thing to do because I mean, we couldn't be any more wrong in this deal, could we? Uh, or actually, we could. See, things actually get worse for us each day because we deplete our stockpile. And like I said, Trump, the only thing Trump knows is bomb. Oh, you worthless, excuse for an organism. How, if why didn't you listen to the experts when they told you what he was going to do and what the possibilities of reprisal were? And of course, Trump is the smartest guy in the room, so he doesn't need the presidential daily briefing or the latest from the State Department or Defense Department to know what's going on. He's just capable of making a decision because he knows everything. Now, I ask you, what could go wrong? You got a president with nukes who thinks he knows everything. Uh, God help us. Please, God help us. Because we really need it. And I'm going to take just a second to ask everybody to, if they're up to it, give us a call. It's 949 629 3820. We're nothing without you guys. And we always appreciate the call in, our calls in. And, it's just always nice chatting here, what you have to say. So anyway, so the Saudis, don't forget, they were, you knew they were going to have to pay for the Gaza reconstruction, right? Israel is be a cold day in hell. So anyway, Saudi Arabia gets they're a little ticked over all this, and it just costs them more and more money. It never seems to bother anybody over there, so I'm certainly not bothered. I'm just amazed at how it happens. Now let me ask you this. What if like the local small guys start blocking the strait? And the markets hates worse than anything, not knowing, uncertainty. Markets love stability. And if the Houthis can start, you know what we haven't had in a while, and God help me for saying this, but what about a good old suicide bombing? What about some like kamikaze stuff, Iranian style? I mean, I don't know what you guys would. Uh, yeah. Anyway, and I'm really surprised that things are as relatively peaceful as they are, even though I saw a video. People always say this. I saw a video from a reliable news source, and it showed an uh, I won't say Iranian, but that might not be right. Somebody wearing a hijab. I'll just leave it at that. In a parking lot in like New Brunswick. I don't know if that's Canada, Connecticut, or what. But whatever it is, and some big fat white woman crammed into shorts and a top, and just it was a monster of a woman. I mean, tattoos that were like not the. It didn't say "I love you, Daddy." I mean, trust me, these were like the real things. And they just started beating on this woman. I mean, finally got her to stop, but I mean, if you have a right to worship how and where and when you want, then everybody's got it. And you know why we got it? Because it's in the Constitution. You can't they can't legislate religion. People are entitled to freedom of religion, which is the entire reason for the founding of the colonies. Right? I mean, don't let anybody tell you it might have been a little mercantilism and all that, but it was religious freedom. Think about Pennsylvania. I mean, the city of brotherly love, William Penn. You think that would float these days? Now, if you had something named the city of brotherly love, you might expect it to be like, some, gay sex capital or something. I don't know. But anyway, let's kind of leave those thoughts alone. Let's get back to the political deal as we have it. And, it's like everything else. We can't deal with the president we wish we had. We got to deal with the guy we have. So, like I said, how, oil's at $100 a barrel, and you would have to think that it's going to go to 120 quicker than it'll go to 280. Stay tuned and watch those futures markets if you want a a little more insight. And so, and on top of all this, or maybe as part of this, what if this starts a whole new arms race all over? I mean, our arsenal needs to be redone. We need a gajillion more drones. Our navy is, like World War II ish. I mean, it's cruel and unusual punishment to make our fighting people live on these things for months on end. Yeah, it's just not. We owe them better. And but what would be really nice if we had the extra $4 trillion back that you add onto the debt, Trump. You added 10% to the deficit by yourself. And why did you do this? Oh, geez. Could it be for tax cuts for you buddies? Well, yes, it can. And it's funny. And even in Newport Beach, you don't see very many Rolls Royces. But yesterday it was like three or four brand new ones, and you can only bet that that as things are going higher, these people are just getting richer and richer and richer. And I don't even get me talking about the kids having stakes in companies that Trump touts. Yeah, there's got to be a retired SEC, like Securities and Exchange Commission. There's got to be a retired attorney that's building a supreme case against Trump. You can't. So I was telling my friend earlier. I said, you don't get to make $2 billion being president. And if you do make $2 billion being president, it's because you ain't doing a whole lot of president. And you've got to assume that between executive TV watch time, does he have shakedowns in the morning or does he have TV times in the morning? Wouldn't that be interesting to know? A shakedown hour? Oh, Trump takes a shakedown shower every day just to keep in practice. So anyway, I pick on the guy not nearly enough, and I only do that to try to impress upon everybody. This is bad. Everything he's laying groundwork now, and there may be people stopping up, but I don't see them. Well, and what would it be like to go to the polls and see armed guards there? That kind of seems like Cuba, Dominican Republic. Doesn't it seem like some kind of third worldish kind of thing? Is some undeveloped country somewhere? And if don't forget, by shutting down all the other voices, his is the only voice that's heard. And if you don't think that's with the ultimate game, you are sadly mistaken. Even though there could be a parallel game here. And I mentioned that again to my Republican friend this morning just to get his reaction. And I said, you've heard about that master spy list Trump asked for. He says, no. And I said, well, he asked for a list of, spies in the U.S. intelligence network all over, a complete master list. And John just kind of looked at me. And I said, now that he has the list, what do you think he's going to do with it? Think he'd sell it? Think he'd sell it for $50 billion? Is that a little too cheap? Would he sell it for $100 billion? Well, he's probably starting to get warmer here. And if you gave him $1 trillion, those assets, that spy list would be in your hand so quickly make your head spin. At least that's my firm belief. And I don't think I'm alone in thinking that. It's just staggering, isn't it? So, meanwhile, back at the ranch. Uh, and how about this? The administration plans to spend more money on AI than funding for universities. You know what that means? Of course, that means that they want to control the flow of information, the flow of knowledge. I mean, that's a huge step towards government censorship. And don't forget that was another fairly important reason for the colonies. Way back when in jolly old England, they had a rule known as prior restraint, and that said that if you printed something without the king's permission, you could get jailed or killed or worse. No, you can't. You don't have to get approval for what you write. But guess what? These guys want to control all that. They want to control information going in to them, and the information they want increased information flowing into them and very little information flowing out to you. And what information does flow out to you is designed to be that kind of cult indoctrination stuff. Like I said, it staggers me to think that they have this sort of genius anywhere near the White House. But you, I would be hard pressed to not think that's the case. But anyway, go back to the spy list thing. As I'm naming these prices, like, would you sell for 50 billion? Would you sell for 100 billion? How about $1 trillion? And the guy just put his face in his hands. And the reason he put his face in his hands was he knew I was right. He knew that Trump would sell the country out for enough money. I mean, I don't know why he would even have to think about it. Like I said, the dollar amount was kind of tricky, but it's clearly north of 100 billion. And like I said, I don't think you could, after you have $1 trillion, doesn't matter if you have 2 trillion. I think the first trillion just might manage to tide you over. Just and you know what? That might be enough to tide Trump over, so you don't have to use super glue or crazy glue to glue the gold stuff to the walls. Oh, I mean, I talk about just a horror story. We've had 250 years of relatively dignified presidents. Nobody was perfect and all that, but my God, this is the first guy that has not viewed it as a caretaker job. You know, like I say, people that make those kind of like ballroom scale and what do you call them, remodels. When they do that, they generally don't plan on moving out and leaving it for the next guy. Generally, they want that around for a reason. And guys, what does it take to overcome a cheater? It almost depends on how good the cheat is, how sophisticated he is. I mean, everybody knew what a lie and a fraud Trump was, and yet people voted for him. They believed him. Is that not the funniest? I think that's just kind of like ought to be a universal joke. They believed him, or the punchline to the universal joke. You believed him. Yeah, I mean, despite all evidence to the contrary, you believed him. Uh, and you see, my problem is after I do that, then I start telling people or suggesting they not only they're delusional, but they're a delusional dumbass. And the reason they're delusional is they deny the existence of facts and reality. And they're a dumbass. I mean, they just live in this fantasy world. Then they're a dumbass on top of being delusional, uh, because they have the information's there and to refute, and they just don't look at it. And it's a just an innate position. They just can't get beyond it. Okay. Let's see. So when the administration puts out this notion about funding AI more than universities, and of course that means the government having an equity stake in these things. Uh, they use words like this is the first comprehensive rethinking, re-strategizing of whatever they say. So yeah, and that's their justification is this is the first it's always been done that way, and it's okay to try something different. And you're like, well, no, let's kind of look at what you're saying, and the truth of the matter is that you're just being a lunatic. You are just being a lunatic. We wish I was kind of over with, but that's just kind of how it is. Okay, guys. So, you it's like I told you at the beginning of the show. You can run, but you can't hide. You just cannot get away from the guy. I can't imagine how or why that happens, but apparently it does. And and now, of course. Oh, did you hear that? I think 150,000 votes in California were disqualified from the primary. I think I saw that, and I'll dig into that a little more. And California's got 40 million people, so I'm sure that's a relatively insignificant number. And I'm pretty sure that the majority of them, they could well be deaf or or moved or God only knows what. But that's still a sizable number. I mean, much more than I'd ever want to see. And it gives it gives them just the cover, the fig leaf they need, to scare you. And guys, if anybody believes a word out of Donald Trump's mouth, please don't tell me about it. Like I said, credibility means worthy of being believed. And yeah, I'll say this nuclear reactor, not a problem. I had to help Mo Ben Salman or MBS or bro, whatever they call each other. Sure. Oh, and you know what else? This is one little detail I forgot. Well, sure, Donnie baby, what is it? Well, I gotta tell you, Mo, I can't say the reactor unless you take Israel as a recognized country. Yeah, I got to get a little something out of this deal, Mo. You know, I you would think that criminal activity can be unlearned, but apparently, we're all gifted in different ways, and I have no idea what makes how he got this gifted. But well, actually, you do. What do you think about this stuff that's come out about his mother and his father and this and the military school and he toughs it out at military school, but has bone spurs and can't go to Vietnam. Uh, so let's kind of get this straight. You don't mind playing army, you just don't want to be army. Is that kind of and this was what was that, 17, 18 years old? So we have literally a lifetime of behavior to look back at this guy on and question whether he's, telling the truth. And, like it or not, you kind of, that's a nice quality to have in a president is be relatively sure he's telling the truth. And I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but the other day on one of my cross country drives, matter of fact, I was coming back from my brother. I was seeing my brother during COVID, and I got a wild hair that after I was in Charleston, South Carolina, and I had a wild hair that I would head up through Asheville and go like a different kind of route, or because I didn't take that route. I didn't use the 40 the whole way. Uh, so I do this, and then I wonder, like, I wonder how far away South Dakota is. And it was like 1,000 miles or so. And I said, okay. And so just charged on through the night. Get there. I forgot where, uh, but it's snowing. Like I'm got a California car. I've got shorts on. I don't know about this stuff. And when I get out of this truck stop, I notice everybody's leaving their car running. So apparently, no matter what, you never turn your car off. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die. I know I'm going to die. So I hang out there for a while and they close the roads at some point. And then I don't know, they open them up at some point. And you got this little caravan, and it's kind of thing where you're lucky if you're doing 20 miles an hour. And it was just so scary. But anyway, I stopped in what is it? I think it's near Cedar Rapids. I forgot. It's not far from Sturgis, the Mount Rushmore. And when I look at Honest Abe and I look at George Washington, the father of our country, the man as the boy he said, I cannot tell a lie. I did chop down the cherry tree. So even as a child, George Washington was taking responsibility for his actions. And you would have, and everybody knows the story about Honest Abe. Couple failed runs for Congress and Senate and all this, but he just keeps persevering. And ultimately, we have Honest Abe Lincoln. So, okay, so you got Honest Abe, and you got so and ultimately, who do they want next to Honest Abe? Between Honest Abe and Teddy Roosevelt, who do they want? Could it be? Could it be that Donald Trump's image and likeness is going to be right next to hanging on like for dear life to Honest Abe Lincoln? Stay tuned for details, but you got to admit his crew is so wacky that they just might figure out a way to do this. And I say everybody knows this, but if there's one more congressman that said, "Oh, well," I'll rephrase that. I think it was MS Now was asking people whether Trump, did Trump make any mistakes, or what was his, what did you think of the first year? And they're like, perfect. We're like, what? So, like I said, you can look around almost pretty much any every continent. We screwed somebody over, and oh, by the way, as if we didn't screw you bad enough the first time with tariffs. Oh, I'm going to screw you again. It's like the guy's just incapable of learning. And Einstein said something like, "Genius is the ability to adapt." Well, I don't think he's much of a genius. And personally, I would bet my money on Einstein being more right than Trump. Then again, I would bet more money on the Ayatollah being honest than I would Trump. And I see, I shouldn't joke about that, but we live in a world where you guys democratically elected a lunatic, and you cannot imagine what the world is saying. And it's not the Iran war. It's not. In every paper on every broadcast, it is referred to as Trump's war. And these guys can deny it and all that, and they can stick their heads in the sand. But you know what? I don't think voters' heads are in the sand. I think that if you're a registered voter these days, you pretty much have a grasp on who is more likely to help you. And the bigger question is, how do you pick who to vote for? Do you vote for the person that just gives you tax cut money and runs the deficit up for our kids, or or not? And we need to have a little more decency in the upbringing, and again, that may be an impossibility. I don't have any really great answers for single parents. They're doing the Lord. They really are doing the Lord's work, looking after the most vulnerable. But anyway, choosing a candidate. Would you choose a candidate that's more likely to give you a tax cut, a financial benefit, or are you more likely to vote for a candidate who will look out for the vulnerable, who will look out for the most helpless among us? And it's sometimes it's just that stark. I know a guy who was a Vietnam commander and went on to start his own medical instrument company, I guess you call it, and publicly traded. And he told me that he just votes for whoever puts money in his pocket. And I clearly get it. I mean, that's a capitalist nation, all that. Well, short sighted, but I kind of get that. Uh, So yeah, and like I said, that's one extreme, and the other extreme is, would you vote for somebody who is going to be kind to those that need it? And And of course, the Republican response was great. They cut the food benefits program. They they let the Obamacare health insurance subsidies lapse, so insurance became instantly unaffordable for millions of people. Combine that with local, rural, particularly rural health clinics and hospitals closing. So that's what he gave you. I mean, that's what you got in the deal. And I it's it's wild. It apparently the economy is just so huge that any given thing might take a year to work through before we really see the some of the repercussions, and they're all starting to come home to roost. And like I said, the old Scaramucci observation that, and I'll paraphrase this as nicely as I can, is that everything touches turns to dog poop. And the only reason he just keeps finding new cons and new grifts to griff and hustles to hustle and all that. And Ward, do you remember when he was involved in that? I think it was a 34 count fraud case, and the judge lets him take the stand. And I just won't. He's just not responsive. He's trying to just make a statement, and you just don't do that in courtrooms. That's not especially on jury trials. So everybody knows better than to believe him. He just keeps finding excuse me, new people to con. And oh, by the way, I hope everybody. Oh, bite my tongue. Now, just to show you, I do have a sense of humor about all this. If I'm not mistaken, didn't he manage to sell 50,000 of those Trump Bibles at like $50 a piece? I mean, isn't that like a quick $300,000 or whatever it is in Bibles? And trust me, if there's one book you would have had to bet Trump never got any ink stains on his finger from looking at it, you would have to think it's the Bible. Or it might be the honor coded pen, but and wouldn't that be nice to know? Wouldn't it be nice to know? Trump always leaves these things dangling. Like like his tax returns. He just leaves things dangling. He never really commits. Like the Tomahawk missile investigation when we killed the 175 Iranian girls at their school. Uh, you know, we really are deluded because we have these two really big oceans between us and most of the world, and like I say it'll not not Hawaii 5-0, but Pearl Harbor was just a fluke of the times. And like I said, shouldn't have, it should have been intercepted. But, like I say, from there, the rest is history. And God knows how many calculations and gyrations that the countries had to go through behind the scenes to get, and hell, it's, that's finally what it took to get us involved. We were pretty much content to watch people get slaughtered in Europe. And tell me how that's right. And, if Trump has shown us anything, that it's that leadership, at least Democratic leadership, rests on a certain commitment to following the rules. And again, you can look at Trump's background, and I don't think he's a rule follower. And you see, rule followers are good for everybody. Rule breakers, just there's only one person that a liar helps or tries to help, and that's himself. So anyway, so let's. How did I get off on that tangent? Anyway, with Trump, it's relatively easy to go into a tangent. And just to show you, they had tried Trump administration to try to get a list of Jewish persons on campus at University of Pennsylvania, UPenn, home of the Wharton School of Business, which Trump alleges that he graduated from. I think we're all a little skeptical. I mean, and if he did, it couldn't have been more than like a gentleman's C kind of thing. And I mean, you pay in an Ivy League school, and it just Trump's just pushing around. But can you imagine a list of Jews? How about if it was a list of Muslims? But yeah, how about if it was a list of Catholics? You see where this just completely unravels once the Trump floats something, it usually sinks under because it starts taking on so much water it can't possibly stay afloat. Uh, so God help us. Okay, and if this isn't, ladies and gentlemen, I know this will just make your day, and I'm gonna invite somebody to call in. We've got the open phone line 949-629-3820. And like I say, I'm Abby Kaufman, your somewhat savvy politically minded host. And our deal is that we let you talk and we listen, except for when there's nobody calling through, in which case it's up to me. And I'm always glad to be here, guys. So anyway, if this doesn't warm your heart, I mean, talk about things that just make you go, oh, it is. That, how about, I'll give you the exact headline because you won't believe it otherwise. And of course, this is from the Financial Times. Uh, let's see, what is it? Far right MAGA darling Loomer caps Ukrainian conversion with a visit to Kiev. Now, in case you're not familiar with that name, Loomer, and and you got to be a little suspect. Loomer starts off the same way lunatic does. So, and maybe it's not just a coincidence. That a lot of people have considered her a lunatic. I'm certainly not in any position to judge, other than by being like an armchair kind of guy. And I think her writings and positions are such that they can more than reasonably be called into question. So anyway, this is the Financial Times. Uh, far right MAGA darling. I mean, we'll commoditize anything if we can make a dollar, and it really kind of hurts to see the British doing this too. But it's like nukes. Hell, if you got one, I want one. And guys, I can't imagine. I wish I could stress enough the the false sense of security that gives people. I mean, what? It, how would you would have to take it on faith or some sort of incoming detection that there's a nuke on the way, and you can rest assured that if you're Israel, as of this moment, the nuke, if it came at all, would have to come from Russia or Eastern Europe somewhere. Uh, but that doesn't have to be the case. And what if Saudi Arabia gets a little nuclear reactor and starts a little nuclear development program on the side just to keep the crown prince happy? Uh, so yeah, does anybody doubt that'll happen? And how about the guys after that? The guys after that, and that's what those whole people that want to have all the arms reduction talks. That's kind of why I think they know deep down that it's the only amount of time before some lunatic, hits the nuke button, and another person replies in kind. And I don't know how these don't they have, what is it, multiple warheads on each missile. I mean, you can literally see how the land masses of the world could just be blown up. And if they're not blown up, they certainly won't be habitable. You won't be able to grow anything or eat anything. Other than, you know, it'll be so bad you won't even be able to have a mayonnaise sandwich. It'll be so bad you want to have hot. You can't. There's no hot water, so you can't even have hot water soup. Okay, I mean it's like really bad. Okay, so guys, like I said, give us a call 949-629-3820. And have you guys started to do any canvassing for your favorite candidate? Dave Min has a canvas event this what is it this weekend in Irvine, but I don't know if I'm allowed to go there anymore. The first time Dave had one of those, I went because I think Dave's an excellent guy. I think God knows he's smart and he cares, and I think he's pretty much the perfect representative to have. And so I said I respect him and thought I would go, and was paired up with a woman who was head of the Iranian American Democrats Club, which was kind of neat. And we were walking through a neighborhood, and of course, you go in pairs. And and it seemed like everybody was Iranian because she was able to speak Farsi, and everybody got it. And maybe I don't know, not long into the walk, less than probably less than an hour, might have been. It was like the first stop, so it was pretty early on. We're walking through this neighborhood in Irvine, and I just tripped over this curb, and it's like sidewalk and concrete, and then two concrete steps beyond that, and I can see I've tripped and I'm falling towards the concrete steps. So I think to myself in that flash that, number one, don't let your head hit. So I think I took the blow with my nose because if it wasn't broken, blood starts coming out, and my glasses like flattened on my face, and everybody starts coming out with this horrible look on their faces. And I'm like, I'm okay. And they said, wait a minute, your nose is bleeding. I'm like, well, that's not a big deal. Give me a band aid or something. So anyway, she starts running to different houses, and before you know it, I had three Iranian or Persian doctors, helping me with my bloody nose and head and all that. And I don't know this, but I'm like bleeding from my forehead because that had barely grazed the step. I mean, I was, whatever it was, I was not going to let my cranium hit the concrete. Actually, it's really funny. One of my uncles did that in San Diego. He just, had a walker and, one crazy about using it, tripped over a curb, hit his head. 24 hours later, it's, adios, have a nice trip. So anyway, I forgot what the point of that was. But anyway, maybe just meant to plug Dave in. Like I said, Dave is just an excellent, excellent guy. I saw him in a debate one time, and I won't give the details because it's just it's not what we do here. We try to be constructive. We don't necessarily intend to be destructive, unless, of course, you are the orange-tinged subhuman creature occupying the White House. And oh, by the way, I need to give a shout out and all that to the. Yeah, I wonder how many we're up to. Wouldn't you like to know? Wouldn't you like to know exactly how many people we have to give a shout out to for my I'm a loser Beatles video? Oh, and isn't that funny? It just so happens to have gotten 420 views by now. So we are extremely grateful for you guys. To say we couldn't have done it without you is like the height of understatement. But you guys know that I always appreciate what you guys do for me. Uh, all we want to do is help. All we really want to do is help elect Democrats up and down the ballot. And it's been a while since I've had this rant before. But I just don't want the dog catcher to be a Democrat. I don't even just want the assistant dog catcher to be a Democrat. I want the assistant dog catcher to the assistant dog catcher to be Democrat. That's how deep I think we need to go in this. There's absolutely no position that's not important. And guys, this is our time to make a statement. There's going to be some indivisible rallies going on weekly, And I can't encourage people enough to go. It's one thing to go to your local Democrat club and help stuff envelopes and phone bank and all that stuff, but it's another thing to connect on a personal level with, I don't know, 100, 1,000 like-minded people. And I would bet you the last indivisible thing I went to was literally at the corner of Pacific Coast Highway and Jamboree Road, which is a major, major intersection in Newport Beach. And there were people lining all four corners as far up and down the block as you can see. I mean, it would not have surprised me at all if there was like 1,000 people there. And, doesn't it do your heart good? Yeah, it did my heart good. Uh, excuse me, I managed to, have a seat and hold the sign and wave and, give people the old thumbs up when they honk. Uh, but guys, unity is always hard to beat. And that's one reason why I kept my email at united at democracyradionetwork.com, because we as Democrats have to be united. At this point, there are no options. There are no alternatives. There's, uh, there's the faint hope that we can avoid the rocks he's steaming towards. I mean, Trump isn't going to hit the rocks. I mean, he's going to run it up so hard that the hull's going to be gashed open. Trust me, we have nowhere seen the war. We're just starting to see things settle out from his policies. And oh, by the way, did anybody notice that Trump is going to reinstate tariffs at higher levels? When I saw that, I'm like, of course. Why wouldn't he? He's incapable of learning. Why wouldn't he keep repeating himself? And I say, when you have access to information and for decision making purposes, and you ignore said research materials for decision making purposes, then I think you're incapable of making a rational decision. Yet that only leaves, a coin toss. And everybody. I'm not a gambler. I always thought that gambling was like God's way of saying you had too much money. Uh, but at that point, how about old Elon storming out of that interview with who was it? Well, I forgot which. And while we're talking about people running away, how about Ken Paxton down in Texas? And, the guy's just he's just as arrogant as Trump. And he kind of that had to be the most tone deaf endorsement in the history of endorsements. Oh, I don't watch much TV, but even I couldn't get away from the videos from he and someone else, a woman, not his wife, in London, enjoying themselves. Um, the guys, the Texas State Bar indicted them on their own, and so this is going to be really cool. And don't forget, there's no like a Senate confirmation for these guys. He's just running for office. Oh, and of course, who's he running for office against? James Tallarico, the really mild mannered. Was he a pastor or something? Reverend minister? I don't know, something like that. Uh, anyway, he's one of these guys that actually does the stuff Jesus said. Now, you see, it's what I thought, and hardly a biblical scholar like I admit way too often. Uh, but if I get this kind of right, I think, okay, guys, I'll go out on a limb. I'll even go out on a limb for this. I will go out on a limb and say that Jesus just might have said something like, oh, I think I should feed the hungry. Or how about the ever popular, I think that couple looks ill. Let me try to heal them. Or even worse, the couple has a sick child. Let me try to heal the child. Oh, look, there's someone sleeping in the street. He's under a newspaper. A newspaper's his blanket. A step somewhere is his pillow. Maybe I'll try to give shelter to the unsheltered. Now, I see those kind of things. I would believe that Jesus would have advocated somehow or other. This whole kidnap, shoot to kill, and then kidnap, you know, citizens, which is what ICE does on a routine basis. See, that ought to be frightening. There's nothing. What's technically stopping Trump from sending two guys over the rail? Hell, they could send one guy to be funny. Send one guy over the rail to throw a hood over my head and take me away because I dared to speak something unkind about Trump. And the fact of the matter is, I'm not really sure if people find kind things to say, but that's. But apparently, there are enough U.S. senators and reps that think the guy's just perfect. I can't. God, I wish I was a fly on the wall when these guys go home. Now, if the Paxton interview is any indication, it's going to be like shooting fish in a barrel. Matter of fact, and you almost hate to do that because it's so unfair. Uh, but these guys have driven riffs into things that they didn't have to. Uh, like even the really great Chinese scientists that were developing our AI. Well, guess where they're going? Yeah, apparently the grass is greener in red China. But yeah, I mean, and you're not oblivious, guys. I say I'm broadcasting from Newport Beach, California. But if you're listening to this, you understand exactly the dangers of this sort of cult like encouragement. And like I say, keep in mind, no, we can't have the word cult without cultural. So somebody was like brought up in this. Can't imagine who. Oh, and you know what else? Before we go, I'm going to split it a little bit, but I want to tease a little something about Monday. Monday we have Dr. Letitia Clark, and she is the current mayor of Tustin, California, running for is it re-election or anyway? She's like the first black mayor of in the city of like Tustin, and it's always a little different when a health professional runs. They have of course, insights that a lot of people like me just don't have. So I'm really can't wait to hear what she's got to say. I have rough ideas to her platform, and I think she'll be. The truth is, based on her platform, uh, if we can help her win this race, it's going to really be an improvement for the city of Tustin. And Tustin's like everything else. There's always good times and bad times. But I think Dr. Clark is clearly the shining light here, and I'd like everybody to turn out and at least meet her, listen to her join us on Monday at noontime. And I say tune in, give us a call, give her a call 949-629-3820. And like I said, let us know how you feel, what if you're having financial problems with the cost of living. Did you know anybody that got sent to Iran? Do you know anybody that could possibly take a bullet for our country? Uh, but guys, on that really solemn note, because it doesn't get much more solemn than giving your life for your country. So, guys, I'm going to go ahead and log out. This is your somewhat semi-savvy, politically minded host, Abby Kaufman. And like I say, you know what? What's that? I thought I heard applause in the background. But anyway, guys, what we're going to do is we're going to get ready to check on out of here. And if I'm not mistaken, what do we usually say about this time?